Hello, welcome to this video that talks about the learning grid. The learning grid will be the tool that we use to organize the learning that we do in the Introduction to Online Writing Instruction course. This learning grid will be the assignment that you complete in week 1. It's called the 1.2 OWI self-assessment. But actually you're going to be using this grid throughout the entire course, and I'm going to walk you through how you might use the grid in ways that help you organize your learning. So first, go to the course website and go to week 1 and scroll down to 1.2, the OWI self-assessment. Read that text and read the text that I ask you to read for the week. And then you'll go to this link here, 1.2 OWI self-assessment assignment. When you click on that link, it's actually going to open up Google Classroom, and you can click on the self-assessment document that you see there to open up your own copy of that document. You'll type right in the copy. It'll have your name and the name of the assignment automatically saved, and then once you're done with that, you'll be able to submit it to me. I can't click on that link and show you the student version of that, but I'm going to go into what you will see when you click that link and open it, and that's this self-assessment document. The entire course is organized around 2 different concepts. The first is the OWI principle statement that we talk about in some of the other materials in the class. And the OWI principle categories are across the top. The course outcomes for the class actually link right into the OWI document. So all of these kinds of little numbers here that you see at the ends of our course outcomes statements all link back to that OWI principles statement. And they are all organized under 3 main headings: presence and interaction, course design, and accessibility. And that mirrors kind of this grid that you see here. Now, this grid is kind of like the closet that Dirksen talks about in chapter 2, and you haven't read this yet, but when you get there, it'll kind of click in for you. So this is the structure we're going to use to structure the learning that you're going to do in the class. So first of all, it's organized around principles and those kind of broader categories. And then we're also structuring it around adult learning theory and design. And that's the Dirksen Design for How People Learn book. This is the book. It's actually a earlier version. The one you buy will be yellow and that one's blue. But Dirksen's learning gaps are how we're going to start to categorize the different kinds of learning experiences that you're going to be learning about in this introductory course. And for those of you who continue throughout the entire certificate, you're going to map the learning that you do in each course back to this kind of structure, or this closet for your learning. The learning gaps are motivation and attitude, knowledge, environment, communication, skill, and habit. And each one of those Dirksen discusses in the readings for week 1. So review what each one of those mean. But what we talk about when we're talking about this kind of learning grid is how each one of these interact. So I've given some sample questions here. For example, the category that talks about your motivation and attitude about accessibility, you might ask yourself the question, what attitude do I have about my responsibility for making online courses accessible? What motivates me to learn more about accessibility for online classes, or keeps me from being motivated to learn in that area? So for this 1.2 assignment, I'd like you to answer that question. So you kind of type in that blank, I am worried that I won't have enough time to make accessible classes. Or I won't understand how students best learn accessibility, or whatever your concerns are. Or maybe you're really excited about accessibility because you have a friend or a family member, or you yourself have issues that hinder your accessibility. So this, maybe you are excited about and passionate about learning about accessibility. So you'll do that for each one of these kinds of grids. So what is your knowledge about accessibility? What texts have you read? Maybe you've done some universal design and universal learning things that you can put in here. The main point of this for the 1.2 assignment is not that you research these categories yet, but that this is a real intake document. This is where you're starting in each one of these areas in order to move on with your study in the class. And there's quite a few of them. It might take you a little bit of time to fill out all of them. And I haven't added questions. You'll have to kind of of come up with your own questions about some of these categories. So what's your motivation and attitude about course design? Maybe what are the kinds of things you like to do in terms of design? What things frustrate you in terms of design? And again, if you need any kind of definitions of what we mean by course design, you can just go back to these course outcomes, and these are the particular areas in design we're going to be talking about. And again, if there's something on there, I don't know what straightforward, plain, and direct language is. That's part of your grid. I need to know what that means. That's one of my learning goals for this term. So this is really individualizing instruction. You're going to come away with this 1.2 grid that individualizes your learning path through the course. So once you get done filling out this entire grid, what we'd like you to do is go to maybe 2 to 3 areas, maybe as many as 5, but definitely no more than 5, that you're really, really interested in, or that you know that you have serious gaps. So let's say you've only ever worked in Blackboard, and so maybe you have a really a big gap in course design and environment, so you don't know how to design in any other environment, or maybe you don't know how to design in any environment. You've never done course design in an LMS. Then for that grid, what you can do is go up to your table right here, table properties, and you can highlight that cell in the grid. That's going to be one of your key focus areas. So if that's the key focus area for environment, your other 2 areas, so environment and accessibility, environment and presence and interaction, you'll probably just study a little bit about, but this key area you really want to focus on. So maybe you do some additional reading in that area, or maybe you deep dive a little bit further into that topic. So once you're done with that grid, you've identified and highlighted those boxes in those areas. You're going to submit that. There'll be a little turn it in button up here where this says draft back. And I'm going to look at these and give you some feedback. Then what you're going to do with this is, we're not done. Over the course of the entire 8 weeks, you're going to come back to this grid again and again and start to fill in some of your blanks. So let's say under accessibility and motivation and attitude, actually let's not do that, let's do presence and interaction. Let's say presence and interaction and motivation and attitude. Like you're really afraid of digital technology, you don't like doing voice work, you think you sound like Minnie Mouse, which I actually do sound like Minnie Mouse. So that's an area that you're going to focus on and kind of do some work in. So the first unit in weeks 2 and 3 that we actually go into is presence and interaction. So what you'll do, as you can see here, is you can go to presence and interaction for motivation and attitude, click on that link, and this is kind of the lecture, the assignment for that particular grid area. I do a little bit of a explanation of how this relates to my life and my teaching and learning, and then we have some introductory materials. You should read the introductory materials, or sometimes I'll tell you, just skim read this document, just kind of understand what parts are in it. This is the National Online Learner Satisfaction and Priority Report for the most recent year that we have. So what you're then going to do is go read that document, look at it, get kind of the key points from it, and then you're going to go back to your grid and say notes for this area. Now there's not a lot of room in here, so you're not going to be able to take a ton of notes, and this is the part that I would recommend that you do next, is go into your ULR email and go to the Google Drive, or if you work in Chrome like I do, you can actually download something called the Black menu, and all of your Google stuff can live right on your Chrome menu. So I'm going to show you how to get to it that way. To go through your email, it's kind of the same process. You'll just go to this little grid thing in your email and you should see the same categories. But I'm going to go to Drive and pop that open. And then in my classroom, I'm going to go into our particular classroom folder, which you have auto-generated from Google Classroom. It should say Classroom, and there should be a folder inside that has the name of our class on it. And then I'm going to start a new file, or I'm going to start a new folder that's going to just be for my notes. So I'm going to start a folder right now that's for notes. Create that. And then within that folder, I'm going to start just creating kind of notes pages. So I'm going to go to new. I'm going to make a Google Doc. That'll give you that option, and don't worry about the sharing for that. And then this is going to be my motivation and attitude attitude for presence and interaction. And the reason I recommend doing these kinds of notes files is that, like I said, you're going to be going all the way through the program. If you complete the program with this same grid, you can keep all of your notes and files about motivation, presence, and interaction in this one file. And at the end of the program, or at the end of this course, when I'm asking you to demonstrate your learning, you'll have everything together. So you're going to do notes on the Noel Levitz reading. Note. You can link this directly back into that grid so you can keep track and organize your notes, and I will be able to see it when you turn this in at the end of the class. And how you do that is you create a link for this document. Everything that's a Google Doc is basically a web page with a URL. So you can just go to Share, Get Shareable Link, and then anyone with a link at ULR can view. At this point, that's fine, but what you might want to do is set that anyone at the link with a link at UALR can comment so that I can go in and comment on it at the end at the course. Copy the link, and then you can go back into your kind of shelf, notes for this area, highlight that, and then create a hyperlink to those notes. So you click on this hyperlink button and you paste your link. So now your notes are in this file, but they're also linked into this grid of yours. So you can click on that, go here, open up your notes. So it's really handy as you take notes for different parts of things. If you set up kind of your notes in each part of your grid, notes for this area on each one of these things, then you can actually set up a file folder, keep them all in there, and really organize your learning and keep track of everything that you're going to do, because at the end of the course and then at the end of the certificate, we're going to ask you, what did you learn? How did you know these things? And the more notes and documentation you have of your learning and thinking, the better that's going to be for your final grade. So if you have any questions about this grid, you can post them to our Google Classroom under the general questions area, or you in the Google Classroom underneath the self-assessment, you can see this add class comment. You can actually just post a question for me there and it will generate an email and I'll be able to go in and answer it. So if you are confused about the assignment, you can post a question just like you do for class questions and I can go in and answer it, or you can talk to each other in that area. So that's about it for the grid. I hope this helps you kind of organize your learning, get a closet together, and I'm really looking forward to this method. This is one of our new user-centered design methods for the course to help you kind of create your own learning environment. And as you start turning those in, then we'll start looking at them and reviewing them and get started with the course. Have a great day, and I look forward to working with you in this class.